A new Mission Impossible movie came out this weekend. Of course I'm going to talk about that. So Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is the newest installment in the Mission Impossible franchise. A franchise that me personally, I wasn't all that crazy about in the beginning. I mean, I thought Mission Impossible 1, 2, and 3 were good action movies, but I didn't think there was anything amazing or super special about them personally. But in 2011, we got Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, which I thought was freaking awesome. I mean, I never would have guessed that the fourth installment would end up being the best one in the franchise, because that just never happens ever. I just thought it was everything that an action spy thriller movie should be. So because Ghost Protocol ended up being as good as it was, I was excited to see Rogue Nation. However, at the same time, I was reminding myself that this is the fifth Mission Impossible movie. And usually when a franchise is going on 5 movies, it usually means they're just doing it as a means to make a quick buck. And I'm willing to bet Rogue Nation is going to make a lot of money at the box office because it's part of a very well-known film franchise. And because it's freaking awesome. So much went right for this movie. It was exactly what I was hoping it would end up being. So as you can tell, I'm pretty excited to be talking about this movie. So if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. But you all know that by now. So this movie opens up to a great action scene. Tom Cruise, Simon Pegg, and, you know, the other guys, they're all trying to find a way to board this plane that's going to deliver nerve gas to a terrorist group. And of course, 1,000,001 problems happen. Simon Pegg can't figure out how to open the plane correctly, and Tom Cruise is able to get onto the plane, except he's hanging onto it as it's taking off for his life. Luckily, though, he's able to get inside the plane, intercept the nerve gas, and escape. And like I said, this is the perfect way to open an action movie. Because the whole scene was exciting, it was intense, it made you fear for Tom Cruise's life. It's exactly the way action scenes should be executed in these movies. Later on, Cruise is given a new message to what appears to be the next assignment for him. However, we then find out it was just this big trap that's set by this tall, blonde-haired guy wearing glasses. He gasses Tom Cruise and he brings him to this torture chamber that's operated by the Syndicate, which is basically this terrorist version of the IMF. Which I thought was great for this movie as a villain concept. A group of people that can completely rival Tom Cruise and company in just about everything. And I can tell you, that makes for some pretty awesome action sequences. One of them involving Tom Cruise escaping from the Syndicate with the help of this woman, played by Rebecca Ferguson. Together to knock out every guy in the room, she helps him get away, but not before she rejoins with the Syndicate. So now that he's gotten away, Tom Cruise is officially on a mission to try to find out who the leader of the Syndicate is. Who is this guy that trapped him earlier and tried to kill him? Unfortunately, though, the IMF has officially been shut down by the CIA director, played by Alec Baldwin, and he has basically sent people on the hunt to take down Tom Cruise. So now Tom Cruise has to deal with not only a terrorist organization, but now the CIA coming after him. Really sucks to be him right now, huh? Luckily, though, Tom Cruise is able to reunite with Simon Pegg, and with his help, he's able to sneak into an opera house, and together they find out who the leader of the Syndicate is. However, they can't do a whole lot on that right now, because they gotta stop these assholes from now trying to assassinate the Austrian Chancellor. Tom Cruise is able to beat down one of these guys and take his rifle. Unfortunately, the rifle only has one shot, and Tom Cruise notices that there are 2 other people with rifles ready to assassinate the Chancellor. We see that these 2 assassins are Rebecca Ferguson and some other guy. So how is Tom Cruise going to save the Chancellor's life with just 1 bullet? By basically telling the 2 assassins, hey, don't worry you 2, I got this. And then he's the one who ends up shooting the Chancellor. Don't worry, he didn't kill him, he just shot him in the shoulder, which causes a flesh wound. So all seems like Tom Cruise was able to save the day until the Chancellor's car blows up outside. Yeah, he's certainly dead now. But now Tom Cruise and Simon Pegg are finally able to get Rebecca Ferguson to officially explain everything to them. She explains that she's basically serving as a double agent to try to infiltrate the Syndicate. However, their leader is certainly wise to her, and he doesn't 100% buy that she's totally on their side. So at that opera house, the guy who Tom Cruise took out, he was there to kill her if she failed to kill the Chancellor, while the third guy that was there would have killed the Chancellor if she failed to do it. And should all of that fail, which it did, the leader ordered that a car bomb be implanted in the Chancellor's car to eventually kill him, which of course is what happened. Which was so smart for this movie. Because they did a really good job at portraying the villain in this movie as some sort of just evil genius. This guy basically makes sure that all of his plans are completely fail-safe, there's always an alternate way to get the job done, and he also doesn't entirely trust any of his followers. He's aware that someone could betray him and he needs to keep those people under close eye. It's factors like this that make him such a worthy adversary to Tom Cruise, which is a must for these movies. So now the three of them have to infiltrate the Syndicate's power station in order to download this ledger that they believe has a list of every single member of the Syndicate. However, in order for Simon Pegg to safely infiltrate this building, Tom Cruise has to go underwater, switch out some data that will allow him to safely access the building, and then escape, all of which is going to take 3 minutes. If he doesn't pull this off, Simon Pegg's gonna get assassinated and Tom Cruise is just gonna drown. No pressure, right? Luckily though, Tom Cruise is able to pull it off, but what I loved most about this scene is 2 things. One, it reminded me a lot like the Dubai Tower scene from Ghost Protocol. It just places Tom Cruise in a situation where so much could go wrong, and even if the slightest thing does, he's going to die. It just does such a good job of putting you on the edge of your seat because you're so worried for Tom Cruise. And 2, Tom Cruise isn't able to escape at first, and of course it looks like it's lights out for him. But Rebecca Ferguson, she goes into the water and she saves his life. And I thought this was great because in a lot of action movies, the leading lady that's in it, she's usually just perceived as some girl who's just along for the ride or someone who just needs to prove herself through this whole thing, which only annoys the shit out of you and leaves an audience completely uninterested in her character. In this movie, however, Rebecca Ferguson's character is completely badass. She has such an interesting story and she contributes so much to this movie. I at times had myself wondering who was the bigger badass in this movie. Was it her or was it Tom Cruise? Either way, I loved how her character was portrayed in this movie. Until she steals the flash drive from Simon Pegg with all the data on it. Never mind, I hate her again. But hey, now we get an awesome highway chase scene. Which is great because we just had an intense underwater scene. Now we get a chase scene immediately afterwards? The director was probably thinking, you know that phrase, all talk and no action? Well, let's basically make this movie the opposite of that. I see 0 problems whatsoever with that, so thanks, movie. The chase involves Rebecca Ferguson, the Syndicate, and Tom Cruise, who's now accompanied by Ving Rhames and Jeremy Renner. Those 2 have basically been trying to get to Tom Cruise in order to help him, albeit against the CIA's command. But who cares? The gang's all here now, and it's awesome. And although Rebecca Ferguson was able to escape with the data, Simon Pegg thankfully was able to make a copy of it. Which is good, because when she did get away, Rebecca Ferguson's handler, who we find out was the original founder of the Syndicate, he deletes all the data on her disk as she's talking to him through the use of what appears to be this really awesome app on his cell phone, I guess. So thank you, Simon Pegg, for being really, really smart. Unfortunately, the villain is a smart bastard too, and he has his men abduct Simon Pegg and now orders Tom Cruise to bring him the unlocked data, otherwise he's going to kill Simon Pegg. The group finds out they need the Prime Minister's biometrics to unlock this thing. Jeremy Renner is able to get in touch with Alec Baldwin, he's able to get him to come help Tom Cruise rather than bring him in. Through disguising Tom Cruise as Rebecca Ferguson's handler that we saw earlier, they're able to get the biometrics from the Prime Minister. However, when the real handler shows up, the Prime Minister himself reveals the Syndicate was supposed to be a project for performing missions, but once its members started acting a lot more extreme, and once the current head of the Syndicate overthrew Rebecca Ferguson's handler, they essentially became, well, the Rogue Nation. Ving Rhames discovers that this data is in fact access to billions of dollars, which will basically allow the Syndicate to get away with any terrorist act it wants to commit. Tom Cruise refuses to let his friend die, but he also doesn't want this power to fall into the hands of the Syndicate, so he decides to finally confront their leader. Tom Cruise destroys the file, but he also tells the leader that he memorized all of the data that was on it. And now if the leader wants it, he needs to release Simon Pegg from the bomb that he strapped him to. And that whole sequence, I'm sitting there looking at the villain and I'm all like, do not kill Shaun of the Dead, you bastard! And thankfully, he stops the bomb in just the nick of time. In a final conflict between the Syndicate and Tom Cruise alongside Rebecca Ferguson, they defeat the Syndicate and capture their leader in conveniently the same kind of gas trap he trapped Tom Cruise in the beginning of this movie. So at the end of this movie, the IMF is officially reinstated by Alec Baldwin himself, and we find out his goal of shutting down the IMF was to allow Tom Cruise to operate undercover without any interference for this mission. So it looks like he turned out to be a member of the IMF this whole time, which only means he's probably going to be in the next Mission Impossible movie. All the more reason to keep looking forward to this franchise's continuation. So all in all, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation was awesome. The story was great. The spy tech was so cool. The action sequences were so exciting to watch. There was a great villain. The characters were all awesome. And say what you will about Tom Cruise, but that dude is 53 years old now, and he is still kicking ass in movies today, and as far as I'm concerned, is one of the best action stars in the business. Hell, this guy performs his own stunts in these movies. You don't think that's impressive? You go hang out on a flying airplane, haters. Honestly, I really can't think of any flaws with this movie. This is one of the best films I've seen all year. And I cannot wait for more of these to come. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.